Hello networkers, and welcome back to another episode of Ask the Network Engineer, where I will answer one of your questions. And this question comes from JB Manga B, and he asks, what do you think about attending a 4-year university and or securing a networking internship along with or before getting certified? That's a very good question. So let me talk more about that. Okay, so my personal experience with this is a little different. When we talk about 4-year universities, when we're talking about internships, getting that, then getting certified. So for me, when I started college in 1994, my major was computer engineering. And I wanted to do that because of the cool graphics and animation of Jurassic Park and Terminator 2. I wanted to do that stuff. I thought it was awesome. Well, I don't know how I determined that. I just said, I think that's computer engineering. Well, that was the wrong major. So I changed my major to computer science. And that happened like a semester later when I first started college. And my first class that was required was C++. And I did not like that class at all. I said, I do not want to do programming. The teacher didn't make it very interesting for me either. So I changed my major for the third time to a technology-related degree. But during that time in college, I did get job experience. I did get internships, but it was with working with desktop computers and with server administration. So that's my level of internships that I did, my experience, my computer experience during college. So when I graduated from college in 1998, I did not graduate with a computer networking type of a degree. Furthermore, the experience that I did have, the internships, it was only with desktop and servers. I had no experience with networking at all. There was a networking class that I took in college, but they talked about it for like 2 weeks. It wasn't really much of an emphasis about that. So after I graduated from college, actually 2 months before I did graduate, that's when a contracting agency from Cisco contacted me about an opportunity. And I told them about my experience. I had server experience, I have desktop experience. And they said, that's good. Let's bring you in for an interview. And that landed me the job at Cisco. And from there, I took full advantage of those resources. That within 6 months, probably less than that, when I was hired at Cisco was when I was certified as a CCNA. Now I left Cisco and then I eventually got my CCNP at my next place of employment, and then eventually my CCIE like a year later after that. The one thing I did learn very early on when I got into networking was self-learning. Now, there's 2 types of learning systems for people. There's self-learning, where you kind of teach yourself, and there's classroom learning. And some people work better under one of those type of systems. So self-learning means that you're getting the actual books and you're reading the books, you're practicing. So for example, this book right here, bring it up to the camera. This book is how I mastered BGP. This was self-learning. This is one of the best books out there. I simply love this book. But this is an example of me doing self-learning of BGP and mastering it. This is a routing book here, routing TCP/IP. This is a very popular book that I read and mastered about routing, multicast, and many other type of protocols. There's also a version 2 of the book. Let me bring that up. It's heavy, so this is another version of the same book. Very, very good information. If you want to be a master with routing and switching and know everything about it, these are the books. This book right here, it's an older book. This is a Cisco LAN switching book. This is the actual book where I have learned and mastered LAN switching, spanning tree, VLANs, trunking, BTP. That was This is a very, very good book. And of course, that helped me towards the CCIE as well. I mean, that's a great book. That's why I still have the books. And this is another good book for IPv6 that I really enjoyed as well. And there's other books I have on my bookshelf of very similar content. That is self-learning. You're getting the books, you are reading it page by page. They have caveats, best practices, configuration examples. You can also get training material like our website at routhub.net, our training program. That is specialized and focused with self-training. And of course, with everything that you're reading in these books here, I used to buy equipment from eBay, routers and switches. This is before GNS3 was out. Remember, this is a long time ago. But I used to buy equipment from eBay and build the different labs based on the different books that I was reading. And I would just learn how to configure everything. I dedicated a lot of time to do that. So that is an example of self-learning, that you are taking the initiative of getting the resources and learning all the material and getting the hands-on, being very motivated of learning everything that is even possible for networking. The other method is classroom training. And of course, well, that speaks for itself, that you're going to a class that is scheduled, and likely you're going to choose a class that is towards a certification. So they're going to teach you the concepts. You may have questions, so you can raise your hand and ask questions to the instructor. They will have labs provided to you and other information to help you. So a lot of people really prefer to be in a classroom environment. It helps them learn. I realized very quickly in the IT field, and it's something I'm going to really bring up towards the end, is a very honest conversation with you guys, that a lot of people have a hard time sitting down on their couch, opening up a book and reading page by page. That seems to be really hard for people. And that's what I want to talk about a little further, of why that is very important for self-learning. But you have to determine what type of person you are. Do you prefer self-training, where you can pick up a book and resources and do it each thing day by day? Or do you prefer to be in a classroom where they are providing structure to you? They're saying, read this, you get a test on Friday, do these labs, here's the lab guide. You need to determine exactly what method of learning is the best benefit for you. So here are my recommendations about self-learning and classroom learning. If you prefer a classroom setting for learning about new technologies because it keeps you focused and motivated, that's okay for starting out in your career. But over time, that will be very, very expensive because network technologies always change. You can expect that every quarter that there's something new or there's some new enhancement that comes out. There's always something new, a new feature that may come out, a new type of protocol. And you're not going to take a particular class to learn about that protocol or how to configure that protocol. You're not going to do that. That will be more of self-learning. But if you're starting out, classroom training is okay, but you need to move in the direction of self-learning. So if you're taking a break, if you're having lunch, if you're at home and you have some free time, pick up a book or go to a web page, go to your training materials and study that. Self-learning is the direction that you really have to be in, because this is a growing field with new stuff that happens all the time. Not just with networking, but also with desktops and servers, security. It's technology. It always changes. So you have to keep up and keep learning about the new things that comes out. That is all self-learning. I bring this up because this tends to be a very common issue that I have personally seen with people who want to be a network engineer. So there are people that, like for example, my wife, so she works for a cloud computing company. And a lot of these people, they want to be network engineers. Fantastic, right? But here's the problem. During their lunch break, they're like reading some sports magazine. Okay. Or when they're at home. Now, they don't have any kids. They're recently married, so they have a lot of free time. And they don't go to parties or nothing like that. But they play their guitar. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. But they do nothing for learning anything new or learning new technologies, picking up a book. They're not doing that. Their argument is, well, I'll do it if they pay me. That's the wrong answer. That will not make you a network engineer. That will not make you have people pursue you for opportunities. You have to make the time to learn this stuff because you want to. This is such a common thing I have always seen, that there are people who want to be engineers, but they do not want to dedicate the time, the investment of time, to become a network engineer. It's not going to happen by itself. You got to put in the time. And yes, you can read your magazines, you can play your guitar. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can at least dedicate some days for your education, for learning. I sacrificed a whole lot of time, but it was very well worth it. When I was preparing for my CCIE, I used to come home around like 5 o'clock, and I would be up until 2 in the morning, studying, doing labs, just making it perfect. And I would do that. I did that for over a year. That's the commitment that I did. And yes, my friends and I, we don't do much. So we like to eat out at Chili's and we go to the movies. That's what we do. We go to Vegas probably a few times a year to watch the shows. We don't gamble. So I do have fun, but I also invested the time to study. And because of that, I became a CCIE. And that opened up the opportunities big time. That's why I always say, get certified. Get certified to the highest certification that is possible because the opportunities are there. That is what companies want. So if you want it, you have to schedule your time so that you are doing studying. You can still do your personal things and your hobbies. But once again, this is something I have always noticed that people are not putting in the time, and they're saying comments like, well, I'll only do it if they pay me for it. That's not going to work. That would not make you a senior network engineer over time or get you certified. It's not going to happen. Another question that I want to introduce into this conversation very quickly is a question that is posted by Niran. And he says, is the CCNP too hard to pass? Absolutely not. So if you prefer a self-learning path, get the appropriate training material, the right kind of textbooks that is dedicated for the CCNP. Now, the CCNP is a series of tests, so you got to keep that in mind. Or if you prefer the classroom path and you have the money for that, that's very good. You can sign up for the CCNP classes and they will teach you the concepts. They'll give you assignments. They will give you lab access. And you can do that, self-learning or classroom learning. But you got to stay focused and you got to stay motivated of completing everything that you're going through. Completing the class, completing all the assignments, reading the book page by page, answering the sample questions, doing labs that you are building using gns3.net. That's really the best thing you can do. Or the Cisco CSR 1000V, which is my favorite and what I tend to use. So it is not hard if you get the right material, you go down the right path of self or classroom learning, and you stay focused on getting it done. Dedicate the time, sacrifice the time to do what you really want to accomplish. So here's my final point. There is nothing wrong with going to a 4-year university if there's a degree that is with networking. There are some colleges that have that. or if you want to do an internship. Now, I do recommend an internship regardless. If you have that opportunity, that is golden, because that's going to give you that job experience that will help fill in your resume. So it is a network-centric resume. That's what's very important. But also, you can get certified at any time. You do not necessarily have to go to a 4-year university or pass a class or get an internship. You can prepare for your CCNA or your CCNP or any certification right now. You just get the training material that is needed and you study it and you pass it. So you should be doing all of these things, because this is helping for building your career as a network engineer. So those are things to definitely keep in mind. And that will conclude this episode of As a Network Engineer. Thank you very much, guys, for the great questions. I hope that helps. And if there's other questions that I didn't answer, please post your questions below. But as usual, I want to hear from you guys and girls. Please post your questions about anything in the networking field or anything about being a network engineer in the comments below. You can also tweet it to us. You can email it to us, put it on our Facebook page or LinkedIn page. We have many different methods of how you can communicate with us for posting your questions. So post your questions below, and please subscribe to our channel, as we will be releasing more videos in the As a Network Engineer series. There are a lot of great questions that are queued up that I'm ready to start producing and making, and it should be a lot of fun. And thank you very much, guys, for the big support and a lot of feedback I have received from you guys. It means a lot, especially since this is what I love. This is my passion. And I guess I like that passion to rub off on other people. So again, thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe to our channel. Post your questions below. I want to hear from you guys. And I will see all of you networkers next time.